Rick, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me on Culture Corner today. It's great to have you on the podcast at last. We've been talking about this for a while, so thanks for joining me. Just first up, what I know we know each other, but for anybody listening that doesn't know you, if you just give me a bit of an idea of who you are, what you do, your roles and responsibilities, and we'll go from there.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
I'm Rick Spencer. I've been in IT for 24 years now.
Right, yeah.
I actually started back in the day through the apprenticeship program. Straight out of college, apprenticeship. Got into IT, did it for a few years, and then they kindly put me onto a graduate program. So then I got a degree while working full time. That was a challenge. And then from there, I landed a test position. So then I went through a few test roles to a few different companies. Got into a team leadership position. Then I transitioned over to my current employer at Certinia, and I got again a test role. And then I managed to land a engineering team leadership position, and that's where I am now.
Right.
So now I'm responsible for not only ensuring the delivery of quality software, but making sure that it follows engineering standards, training, mentoring engineers, and integrating with all the other platforms that we work with.
Fantastic! And apprenticeship, I love the alternative routes into tech. And it's so important nowadays, isn't it? Trying to push people into tech, well, not push them, but give people additional routes into tech. So, did you do a tech-related subject at college, and then which took you then into an apprenticeship?
I did. Yeah. I was doing software engineering at college.
Right.
I then did a software delivery degree through the apprenticeship, and then did another apprenticeship recently, and got an MBA.
Oh, congratulations! While working full time.
Yeah.
That can't have been easy either.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of white hairs. It does.
Perfect. Well, you've answered one of my questions anyway, because I was going to ask you how you got into tech, and it's great to, I suppose the traditional route seen as, school, college, university, computer science degree, away you go, but it's so important that people are offering apprenticeships and alternative routes, isn't it? And it's proved successful as it has done for yourself. So you talked about your journey there, was there a pivotal moment that you thought, I'm going to stop being an individual contributor and I'm going to move into a leadership role? Or was there an influence throughout your career that...
Yeah, I'm always looking to improve.
Yeah.
And I sometimes find myself in a position where people in the roles above me maybe aren't doing it as well as I would think they could, and as well as I could do it.
Yeah.
And over time, I guess I figured out how I would do that role. And when I managed to get myself there, I just managed to follow through those ideas, those concepts, and saw the effect out on my team. And I was very happy.
Perfect. And that's encouraged you then to go again and continue that route, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So obviously we're going to talk about culture, so and high performing teams and leadership. So my first dive into the culture aspect is what's the culture like at Certinia where you currently work?
I do really like the culture at Certinia. It is what keeps a lot of people staying there.
Right, yeah.
It's really relaxed. We went through the whole transition of Scrum versus Kanban.
Yeah.
So it's the whole push versus pull methodology, and transitioning to pull means that immediately it's lower stress because you just take what next on the pile rather than saying, I'm going to do these 5 things in the next 2 weeks. And then every time you don't get there, you go, this is why I didn't do it.
Yeah.
This is what I could have done better. And it never happens. And having the relaxed approach, having that given to you really, saying from the top, going, we understand that Scrum is challenging and that Kanban is a much more relaxed methodology, and we just want the best out of the teams. So transitioning into that allowed us to have that more relaxed approach. But in addition to that, people are empowered to make a lot of choices themselves,
Right.
to make the best environment they can for their teams.
Yeah.
So having more fun, potentially taking the time at the beginning of meetings just to touch base with your members of your team,
Yeah.
rather than just going straight into business every time, because that rolls on into a lot of other benefits, that you know your team better, that you can make better informed decisions on supporting them grow and improve. I could keep on going.
Keep going.
So other things about the culture. POCs.
Right.
I love doing POCs. So software engineering and testing is all about managing risk.
Yeah.
And if you get given a bunch of things that you need to deliver at the beginning of the release, and you go, well, these 3 are the most challenging, let's do them first. Let's quickly deliver something. It won't fit engineering standards.
Yeah.
It won't have been tested, but it'll prove that it's possible. And in doing that, suddenly you've managed that risk, and then having a better integration with your customers, you can then throw it over via a product manager, demo it to them, get that feedback. It's still early in the release, but now you've already got a round of feedback from real customers that can then feed in improved requirements to your process, ensuring that you get a better delivery at the end.
Right, okay. A couple of things I want to dive into there. So, did you see a almost immediate change in the culture, or was there a change in the culture when you moved to a pull? Was it as significant as that? You said that was one of the things that helped it change it.
There was a lot of admin as well with Scrum.
Right, and this was obviously it's important, but I imagine you said it was driven from the top as well.
It was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One day they sat us down, and because we're all given the freedom to make our own choices within our team, as long as we're still delivering software, and supporting our team, etc. They then just presented what are the benefits of Kanban versus Scrum, and after that, within a day, a week, individual people at my level have gone, that's really interesting, this is how I can transition, I'm going to transition, I've now transitioned, these are the benefits.
Wow,
I'm going to stick to it.
Right, okay. So tangible results straight away, and then I suppose that spirals. And so it sounds like you're giving a lot of autonomy. How important is it when it comes from the top?
It does make a massive difference. Yeah. You don't want to ever feel like you're sneakily doing something that doesn't align to standards.
Yeah.
So you're going to do your best to follow the guidance you've been given, and in this instance, the fact that we're given that freedom and we can try things out, we could still move to Scrum if we wanted to, or we could have some kind of combination of the two, if we so chose, and some of the teams still follow some of the bells and whistles that come with Scrum.
Right, okay. You mentioned now, just to pick up on something, the teams, obviously more than one team. Do you find that there's subcultures that have formed within the business because different teams have different managers, or how's that worked out?
Yeah, so with remote working and with hybrid working, there is less time that people are spending in the office. So the culture within their team has received less of the influence from the standard office culture that maybe management will have more control over.
Yeah.
So when they're at home daily basis and their only interaction with their own team is through some video calls, it is highly dependent on the quality of leadership in that team to be able to influence the culture, their own culture, because that is going to change over time.
Yeah.
Dependent on how, let's say, well their team has been run.
Yeah, so is it the culture in the individual teams is driven by the individual managers then, basically?
Yeah. So it is even more important to have alignment of management practice across individual teams to have that consistent culture delivery, to ensure that those subcultures don't start forming.
Yeah. I imagine that's quite tough to be aligned as a senior leadership level to ensure that the same culture is pushed out, because you're talking about individuals as well, aren't you?
Yeah, it is tough, but we do have a training program. I put together a training program
nice.
For people in my position that does lean heavily onto best practice,
right?
And consistency of approach, of styles, of how much effort you should put into this and what methodology you should use for that conversation, which in theory should steer those subcultures towards the same goal.
Yeah, a closer alignment, if you like, as a blueprint or a standard operating procedure, a little bit about the processes and how you should go about things. Very good. And you put that together.
Yeah. I've been sitting in the role for a while, and I saw new people coming in, and I did ask the question a few times: how are these ETLs, how are these team leaders brought up to the level that they can support their team? They know about software delivery. They know what to do when challenging questions come along from their product manager, and when they have conflict in their team, and are they putting enough effort into their one-to-ones to make sure that they get in real relationships, so that they can support their team. Because a lot of engineers who get promoted because of competency find themselves where their new role isn't actually based on how well they can write code anymore.
Yeah. It's people. It's a people aspect, isn't it, rather than the hands-on doing. So it's good to have. I suppose it's good to have that fallback. And is there a training program or a coaching and mentorship program that they have?
Yep, both.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. That's really good. Flipping back onto what you mentioned before about software delivery, you mentioned feedback, and I was going to say, you talked to me about this in the past. How important is it to get feedback or regular feedback directly from the customer? Sort of how often you should get it, and are there any sort of advantages and disadvantages from it coming directly?
So when you're an engineer, what I found is you want to feel that what you're doing makes a difference.
Yeah.
And just writing code for its own sake is pretty good fun.
Yeah.
And yes, I won't lie, a lot of people would just be very happy doing that. But knowing that what you're putting out there is landing well with customers, and then hearing that directly from them really makes a difference to the motivation level,
the engagement,
for you, and then for the next thing that you're working on. But even better, if that can happen during the life cycle within a release, and you can see that customer of theirs wants this feature that you're currently working on, then it's even better.
Right.
Because not only are you getting that feedback to get your increased engagement, but you're also getting that feedback to make sure that what you're delivering has the most value for your customers that it can have.
Right, okay. Rather than waiting till the end, you're having regular. How regular is there? I suppose there's not a set pattern, is there?
It varies on customer size, because often they're quite large customers, and they have a lot of stuff to do.
Right.
So it also depends on how many people on your team are currently focusing on those features.
Right. Okay.
To make sure you've got sufficient progress to make sure that it's worth their time to have another look at what you're doing. So, sometimes fortnightly.
Balancing act, really. And I suppose it's about the leaders' management of their external stakeholders, is it?
Yes, it's also trying to make them want to be involved.
Yeah.
Because that's tough as well.
Yeah. Sort of showcasing to the end client the importance of them getting involved and what the benefits are.
Yes, because if you can sell it well enough, they'll feel like they're steering what you're delivering to their use case, which will always make them feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And are there negatives to having regular feedback?
Yeah. People change their mind. They do a lot. They see something and go, that's not what I imagined. And then you get this sometimes long monologue, and you go, okay, brilliant, we'll deliver that. So then you work on it, you deliver it, and you show them, they go, maybe it was something closer to the first one.
Yeah.
And that can continue.
Wow. Okay.
But it is also a challenge because you get some customers and you may have 3 customers you're working with, but they collectively represent 1,000 customers.
Yeah.
And they're not all the same.
Yeah.
They don't all behave the same way or really want the same things. But you're hoping that by having those conversations with the few customers that's representative enough.
Yeah.
So again, there's a bit of risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And does the feedback sometimes generate a greater workload that maybe has a knock-on effect to the dev team? And then it could go on to like, how do you, I suppose in a hybrid world, your teams could slip into working ridiculous long hours to deliver something. You're at risk of, you can't monitor it because they're not in the office on a regular basis. So does it slip into sort of burnout, or how do you, as a leader, how do you sort of keep an eye on that, if you like, or monitor it and stop it from happening?
Yeah. One of the challenges with really trying to get engagement from your team, and yes, it increases innovation, and yes, it increases their engagement and their happiness to work with you and to work longer hours. But that can, yes, also lead to really trying to hit that deadline because that's what we said we'd do. And they've talked to the customers who will get the code, so they really want to make sure it gets there. And they've been working on it for 3 months plus.
Wow. Okay.
And they're saying, well, I've got to feel like it's been worth something, so I want to make it get over the line. Sadly, sometimes, even though you're trying to demonstrate what a good work-life balance is, and you encourage them to do the same thing, to take breaks, to actually put things down at the end of the day, it is hard if you get in the zone to go, I'm just going to see this thing through because not only am I enjoying it, but I know that it's going to bring value to my customers.
Right, yeah.
But sometimes saying it to them isn't enough. And they've got to go through that themselves. And they've got to feel, sadly, sometimes they've got to feel what it's like to work a bit too hard and to realize that there is actually better choices and no one is expecting them to do that. You never reward it, you never encourage it, and you try and discourage it, but they've got a lot of their own choices. They
have to find that, they're on that journey, they have to find that actually what Rick's saying is, I don't need to do it, I shouldn't be doing it, we're not rewarding it, don't do it, I've chosen to do it, and actually it's having a negative impact on me.
You just got to make sure you're there all the time to support them, and that afterwards you're also there to bring them back, to help them to discuss what it happened, why it happened, and to, I guess, build them back up again. So encourage them to talk, speak up. Why is it occurred? How can we prevent it happening again? And almost learnings from it, basically. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, that leads, talking about you a bit as a leader there, that leads on to some of my questions. What do you think makes a good leader, and what kind of, I've got an idea, but what kind of leader are you, would you say?
Okay, I did read into this a lot during my MBA, and I think that the best kind of leader is one that promotes individuals first. That before themselves, before their own accomplishments, they want to see that their engineers on their team get the support they need to grow to the next level, to provide the opportunities they need to be able to demonstrate that growth, to give them the freedom to make mistakes, to give them the environment where they can be themselves. So a servant leader is what I think works best for me anyway.
That's what you've had. And have you evolved over time into that, and think that's the best way forward?
Oddly, I found myself landing there from the beginning.
Right.
I just didn't realize what it was.
Right, yeah.
And yes, after additional research, I've really lent into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my role still requires a lot of individual delivery. So it's how I balance that.
Right.
It's how I balance my own success with the success of my team.
Yeah. Okay. And if you think about throughout your career how it's evolved, what do you think is your greatest achievement as a leader? If you had to hang your hat on something that I'm really proud of.
I do think that it's how many people on my team I've been able to support to continue and grow in their career, to bring them in through the door, associate engineer who's just come out of university, who doesn't really communicate very well with anyone else, who doesn't ask questions very quickly, so they sit there scratching their head for just too long. Maybe they don't feel like they have the confidence to contribute in larger meetings, even though they do have good points to give, just because people who are talking are more senior than they are. And then providing them with the opportunities they need to grow and move on, and then seeing them get to the next level and the next level, and then introducing those new challenges to get to the next level, and then providing them with the leadership framework so that they are aware enough that they could then go lead a team. And then getting them there. And then maybe at any point in this journey they do decide that another company is best for them, but just encouraging them and allowing them that time and freedom to make those decisions.
So actually you see the achievements and the warmth of actually bringing somebody and taking them on the journey and supporting them on that journey, and see them to achieve their goals or go on to achieve their goals. Whether that's in the company or externally. It's interesting, the external piece, because a lot of people get what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of people get disheartened or sad if people leave the business, don't they? But someone once said to me, it's like, if you're doing the right thing by people, you're helping them evolve and helping them develop, it might be that the company that they're with at the moment isn't the right fit to take them to the next stage of their career. Like, it's just part of the journey. Don't take it personally.
And there's only so many opportunities going around. It is dependent on people leaving and company growth and financial environments that affect the company growth. So maybe there just isn't the roles available at the time that they find themselves itching for that next step. And then they have to find it elsewhere. What's your biggest challenge at the moment? Think about the economy, the environment that we're in, new ways of working, obviously after COVID. What would you say your biggest challenge as a leader is, and how are you overcoming it, or how have you overcome it if you've done that? I think my biggest challenge is still finding opportunities for the people on my team that they can then demonstrate their capability, and then to move on. Other things like COVID and remote working, it feels like that's been solved. I've changed the way I work. My team does things differently now. That was a fairly quick, fun exercise, because I do like process improvement. So having that almost aligned to the time that I was doing additional research, working on my MBA, I just went into all those white papers, did all the research, and went, that could work really well, and then just used my team as guinea pigs. And then wrote about it.
Killed two birds with one stone, didn't you? Exactly. And what do you think the core, thinking about the teams that you've built and other teams that you've observed over the years, what do you think the core sort of fundamentals or core elements are of a high performing team, and how do you ensure that they exist in your teams?
It's got to start with mutual respect. That you've got to feel like you're working with a group of people that are trying their best, who want to deliver the best they can to the coding standards, to best practices, and delivering software that functions and delivers for our customers. With that and the freedom to try things, make mistakes, and not get called out for it. And then just being in a friendly atmosphere. where you do want to come to work. You're not going to wake up on a Monday and go, oh, it's Monday. But waking up and going, oh, we've got these goals to do, and I want to get back into that code that I was delving into, and I got these services to write, and then we can maybe fit together the last piece of the puzzle and ship it off to a customer for another round of feedback. It does really make a lot of difference.
We talked in the past, and you've obviously mentioned it on the podcast, you've recently completed your MBA. Your MBA talks about sort of leadership and strategy, but also creating innovation within teams. How do you ensure that within your team? What have you taken from that and imparted it into your role?
It was one of the more entertaining modules that I did, as I was able to just take knowledge straight away from white papers and try it out. So much fun. But to be able to do it, it was a lot about making sure everyone buys into the vision.
Right, okay.
So what is the vision for this release? What are we wanting to bring to our customers? Who are the customers that we're bringing it to? What type of individual is doing a role that requires this feature? And what do they want from that feature? Why is this feature specifically best suited for them? And put in more effort in at the beginning of each release to make them get on that journey ensures that they're also in a position to question those requirements. Because just being seen as a code monkey, delivering whatever they're told, doesn't really work. And having everybody on the same boat, understanding what's being delivered, why it's being delivered, does actually lead to refinement of that requirement and usually an improvement.
Right. So you'd say transparency within teams is integral to a high performing team?
Absolutely, yeah. And then, yes, with the team leader, with them along that journey, able to see how things are going, have those one-to-one conversations to encourage growth in certain areas, to make sure that they are delivering to what they want to get out of their career. Perfectly matched.
That's interesting that you break the vision down to the individual customer. You know, you hear about a lot of people joining businesses, and he goes, right, you're going through the hiring process, and they talk about their visions and their values and that kind of thing for the business. But within your environment, it's right. Okay, what's the values that that we want to achieve for this customer? This is the journey we're going on. These are the visions. So it's all individual to that.
Yep. Without that thorough understanding at a team and individual level, you won't get the innovation out of your team. You're just going to be delivering. Maybe you'll get code innovation. Maybe you'll get specific ways of writing code that's new and different. But to get real innovation that customers are going to see, they need to really feed into the requirements that they're hoping to deliver.
And that's your part as a leader, is to give them exposure to that, isn't it? Yeah. So that you get that constant feedback from them.
Yeah. Which again just increases engagement.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking about your teams, and you said the progression, that you've talked about that quite a bit. How important is like a career framework, I suppose a progression framework within the business, and how important is it that it dovetails with the wider business, not just on an individual basis?
Yeah, we have talked about this a few times. So in my opinion, you could write a career framework that perfectly fits with technical excellence, and you will get your very best code monkeys retained by the company, and they will progress within the company. But that really may not ensure that value is being delivered to customers and revenue is being generated and the company is going to improve and grow, because there are a lot of follow-up processes after delivering some code that they really should consider.
Yeah.
And if that consideration isn't taken into account in the career framework, then maybe they're going to get rewarded for well-written code, managing technical debt, sharing best practice, which is really great, but it might not increase revenue for the company. And if everyone is pointing in the same direction, it's going to be a lot easier for everybody, because delivering a new feature that requires another department to put a bit more effort in may not have been the best thing to do. And a few conversations could have addressed that earlier on.
So it's not having a career progression and framework just siloed into your particular, I suppose, not niche, but your skill set. It's more let's make people aware of the overall, how it overall impacts, but also fits into the business.
Absolutely, and with that cross awareness, everyone will more likely work together across departments, and you'll just get a better delivery at the end of the day.
Better outcomes for the business, basically. Well, we keep sort of keeping on that theme. I know you've mentioned in the past that we've talked about OKRs, KPIs, that kind of thing. You say it's very much sort of individual to a specific team. Are there better ways of doing that and managing that for better outcomes?
Absolutely. A great example is you've got a requirement that's come through and you've got new features to be delivered, and so your OKR for the release for your team is deliver X feature. But maybe you didn't realize that feature requires some configuration to be done after it goes into production, and that requires the implementation department to be aware of those requirements as soon as possible. And that requires a lot of documentation to be written, and it requires the support department to be aware of that new feature well enough that they can troubleshoot any issues that occur with it. And if your OKR was written in a way that they were actually involved more in those processes, those questions will be asked early along by them, and potentially it won't cause any issues once it gets into production, and it won't potentially slow down delivery of individual customer rollouts.
So again, it's going back to the involving more people in the process rather than it being siloed.
Yes, it would probably increase the challenge of measuring people's performance. If it isn't just your manager measuring it and it's actually 3 others across different departments. I think it's worth it.
It's worth it. Is there a way around that? Have you seen from your MBA? Have you seen it? How is it possible for 3 managers across different departments?
Interestingly, it's only academic papers, and I haven't actually seen it in reality yet.
But potentially it could be. It could be done and work well. Fantastic. One of the things I wanted to pick up on, and you mentioned earlier, we were talking about feedback from customers, how important that is feedback from your teams and feed, for gathering feedback from your teams on just the business, but I suppose as you as a manager, do you encourage feedback? Do you embrace feedback? How do you go about? It's tough, isn't it? Some people shy away from it. It's hard. How do you collect that feedback?
I do it. I actually do it in my one-to-ones on probably not a weekly basis because things don't change that much, but on a regular basis, when I have my interactions with my team, I do ask them for feedback. Can I do anything better? Can I do anything different? Am I supporting you the way you want to be supported?
Nice.
Has anything changed? I also ask if they've got any feedback on the rest of the team. Have you observed anything, good bits, anything? I can then share that with individuals, probably anonymized, to make sure that they get the opportunities to grow. I don't see everything, and having an environment where people feel like they can share feedback with the rest of the team, or about the rest of the team, really makes a lot of difference. Because then it's not just me who's trying to improve the bar. They're all trying to do it for each other.
it brings the people come along. They're holding each other accountable, aren't they? I suppose, and you create an environment where people are willing to give other team members feedback. That's your panacea, isn't it? I think.
But then that also supports the high performing teams.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You can't be high performing without that, can you?
No.
I know your communication is really strong as a leader. Obviously, I can see that, and the examples that you've given about how you lead. How important is communication in creating a strong culture and high performing teams?
There's a bit about leadership to manage challenge in teams, and without managing difficult situations, challenging individuals, it can have a negative influence on the culture of the team, and that is always something to be very aware of. And taking the time to make sure you address those issues in a timely manner, because feedback's always best in a timely manner, does really help to ensure that you continue to have a positive culture.
Okay, that makes sense. Nearly not long till the end, because I know I've peppered you with questions today. One of the things I wanted to touch on that you mentioned to me previously, there's lots of different sort of development methodologies out there, and quite a few pitfalls. You mentioned to me pitfalls associated with that, and I know refining development methodology is something that you've looked at over the years. Are there other ways that they can be done better, and what are the benefits of that? There's a lot of different delivery methodologies, and the trend has moved away from waterfall recently, unless you're on a very large transformation project, to agile delivery, which is great. It's got a lot of benefits. And then obviously your Scrum or Kanban, whether you've got continuous integration, etc., whether you've got software engineers, or just whether you've just got software engineers, or whether you've got testers as well to support them, whether you've got a UAT environment, it all drives how you can then go about delivering your software. In my situation, with the autonomy that I've got and my focus on quality, I have found that I can define the system tests that I would have traditionally written at the very end. Once the software is all together, I can have them written alongside the requirements. Oh wow. Okay.
So for a given set of requirements, this is how the system test would look. This is the data. Specifically, this is the data that would demonstrate that behavior.
Right.
This is the input, and this is the output. Based on those features being implemented correctly, this is how the data would have changed. And then it's just a case of feeding that into your integration tests, your continuous integration pipeline, having it run on a daily basis, and go, well, I think I finished now. Oh yeah, the build's worked. It must be working still. And that's going to satisfy all the major business processes that your software has delivered, which also means that an engineer has refactored a bit of code. So much risk on refactoring. We could talk about refactoring separately. And they don't need to spend half an hour a day, whatever, validating all those major business processes that they still work, because as soon as they put it into develop, the continuous integration build starts, and within a few hours they know that there will be no impact to the customer, that everything is still hunky-dory, and you didn't need a tester for that. And it's just engineers.
Oh wow, okay. And is that common practice? Is that something that you've evolved yourself over time?
That's just my team. I've been encouraging other teams to do it, and I think it is a very safe way to deliver code.
Right, and you've seen the benefits to that, and you're sharing that with other teams. And
So I had a sneaky look at defects that have been raised across the department, and there's been a handful on my team in 5 years. It is quite a lot more on other products. I think this is because of my team's focus on delivering quality first and having this framework that supports that. And it just takes so much stress off engineers, again, so that they can just focus on what they think is best, writing good code, having it fit to the current best practices, and not having to worry about issues occurring because of some refactoring.
It sounds great. It sounds like a win, and a win for the business, but again, a win for you as a leader, that you like, I'm not keeping this success story to myself. I'm going to share that and impart it on other people and give them the opportunity to experience or run with it if they so wish moving forward.
Yeah, it does mean that things slow down at the beginning, because the extra time you need to understand what this requirement's going to do, the impact it's going to have on the data that your system generates, can take a while.
Yeah. And
sometimes the data that you've got at the moment isn't sufficient to demonstrate those changes, so then you've got to invest time into generating more.
Yeah.
But it is going to more closely represent how a customer's system will behave.
Fantastic. Well, Rick, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me today. One last question I've got for you. Obviously, you like to challenge yourself, you like to evolve all the time, hence throughout your career journey into leadership, your MBA. What's next for you? How do you keep developing yourself as a leader? Have you got anything that you want to do in the future, or is the MBA just enough for now?
Well, I'm continuing to read books on leadership, best practice, on flow, on agile. Will there be another alternative methodology that I could follow? And I'm looking to potentially go to engineering management events and hopefully present and maybe share some of my thoughts and my experiences.
Fantastic. So getting involved in getting up there on the stage and imparting your knowledge, and that'll be the next step at events like that. Yeah. It is exciting. Well, good luck with that. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the stage, imparting your knowledge in the future. But for now, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.